Right. Good morning, everyone. How do I get this on screen? Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Laszlo. No, I'm Laszlo. I'm Hungarian. I'm very happy to be back in Budapest. It's my first time at memoQ Fest, but I actually lived in Budapest for many years, and it's a lovely city. It's always amazing to be back, and it's lovely to see all the crowd. Happy to speak Hungarian. Business probably less, because I've always worked in English all my life. Today I'm representing Nimdzi Insights. And if you know Nimdzi, you already know them, you know us. If not, then we're the leading market research and consulting company within the language space. And myself, well, I'm kind of like Renato a little bit. I'm just as tall. I do have longer hair. I'm a little bit leaner, maybe. And I wear yellow pants because Nimdzi colors are one of my favorites. And today we're going to be talking about, or I'm going to be talking about human value. This doesn't work. Okay, we'll stick to keyboard. So we're a market research company, so I could be talking about this kind of stuff, charts about what's happening in the industry. For example, we have, of course, in the Nimdzi 100, which we conducted and published earlier this year, what's the impact of generative AI on the businesses of language service providers. And compared to 2023, where there was kind of more neutral and a less positive impact, the future prediction is kind of good. And also, we surveyed how generative AI is actually being used on the language service provider side and say, yeah, we use the standard solutions, ChatGPT and Claude, and we're connecting through APIs or through plugins through our technology systems. That's all great and well, but actually what we're facing in the industry is a very positive outlook. This was created by Renato to indicate how the underlying structures of economy and the industry drive the growth. And this is kind of writing the S-curves down here, all these S-curves, they're the technology adoption curves. And probably some of you remember still when email came in, or the personal computers, or translation memories. Machine translation, we're just getting to the end of it as the technology is maturing or has matured. And the next S-curve is the large language models and altogether AI, which everybody loves talking about, including myself. Of course, we anticipate that there will be sometime soon enough, there will be a new one coming in. And all this is also underscored by some of the core foundational technologies, 3G, 4G, 5G, 6G, or cloud computing. And the reason why we believe that the industry will keep growing is because there's always more content that could be localized. There's always more content that can reach customers. And the users are hungry for content per se, localized content in their own languages, and in their own cultures, in their own personal values or social values. Let's do a quick question. Who from the crowd today used AI? Okay, very good. Who today used generative AI? Very good. Oh, double here. Well, actually, very good. The reason why there's a distinction is because, of course, every single one of you probably have already used AI today, even if you didn't put your hand up, whenever you used LinkedIn or Google Search or whatever it is. And we know all the things that AI can do, but give you a personal example where AI falls short, and not talking about generative AI, but AI as such. As we all know, Google Search and advertising, for example, works based on machine learning AI as such. I live in the Czech Republic. I'm Hungarian. I'm a Googler. I have an Android phone. I use all my devices in English. And still, YouTube, a Google product, provides me advertisements of how to use Google Chrome on an Apple machine, and the advertisement is in Czech. Complete failure, you might say. Google is kind of taking space from their own advertisers to show me stuff that they should be absolutely 100% certain I am not about to use anytime soon. That's AI at work. And we all know that recommendations that you get in Amazon, on LinkedIn, in your news feed, whatever you use, sometimes they go right, sometimes they go wrong. And there are many use cases where you, if today have used AI, you have considered the ones already in your head, which are the places where you got value out of it, and probably also have use cases where you haven't. Or you probably already tried in the past few months various instances where you just experimented, and we heard it yesterday from Intento and Amadeus, for example, that, yeah, for example, the source optimization that they attempted to do just didn't quite work out at this point of time, maybe in the future. That's kind of how machine translators felt when machine translation came in, and they were told, okay, from now on, instead of just translating and doing editing on the TM matches, from now on, you're going to use machine translation and edit that, right? Seemed like AI can do a lot of stuff. It can do translation. Here we go, machine translation, one good example. But the translator said, ho, 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 I tried it, it doesn't work. Why is that? This, for example, is also something that we keep saying. Foundation models, transformers, large language models have made significant strides in automating project management. I used this slide last year at ELIA PM in Bucharest. And these technologies have enabled organizations and all the way till streamlining workflows and all of that. Sounds very appealing, right? Well, of course, because it was generated with AI. Well, actually, the first sentence was me. The rest of it was AI generated. But there was this thing. It said, this technology is new and improving. Please check the accuracy before sharing. Now, that's what also post editors do, right? But just like with machine translation that has been around for so long and has gone through so many paradigm changes and improved so much, we don't ever see machine translation that is 100% correct, which is also the reason why this you will never see. And I would bet my fortune you will never, ever see this. This technology is perfect. Take it at face value. And that's actually the core human value that we deliver, which is we know, we understand, we vet what the machine produces. Give you another example, personal example. Let's summarize kind of a strange thing because we're at the beginning of the session, but something that we produce is lessons in localizations. We go out and speak with buyers, and we interview them, and we learn how they orchestrate and organize their localization programs, what kind of tools they use, what are the supply chains, what are the decision-making criteria, and all of that. And we post those as lessons in localizations on our website. And we also created what we call the localization omnibus, basically a collection of learnings from those lessons in localization from more than 100 of these studies. And I took this initial first page right here, not readable on the screen, but don't worry about it, because I asked AI to summarize it for me. I wanted to create a short snippet on LinkedIn about this. So here's the experiment. I used one AI tool and said, summarize this in a 5-sentence piece. And no matter what I did, it gave me 3. No matter how I prompted it. Okay, I said, that's not very good. So I used a function in that AI tool that said, elaborate. And I asked it to, okay, that's enough. You're not going to give me 5 sentences. Give me more, just elaborate on what you have already produced. And it did, but it made a bunch of stuff, bullet points, that sounded absolutely plausible. None of them were in the original text. Fine. I was thinking, well, fair enough, so you're not going to help me. But I'm going to ask, let's do a proper experiment. I'm going to ask a few other AI tools. Let's just call them AI 2, 3, and 4, to evaluate how good that summary is. I already know that it's not good. Can the AI tell me the same? And so 2 of them failed epically. They said it's a fantastic summary. All of the key points are represented in da-da-da. The third one actually highlighted many problems with it, except for omissions. And I said, no, but please look. There is a key point here. It was not stated. And I said, oh, yes, of course. Thank you for correcting me. Apologies for the bad response. And then I said, okay, well, this doesn't work either really well at this point of time, so let's use rather AI 2, 3, and 4 to create the summary itself and compare it to the original one, which was really terrible. And 2 of them proved to be workable. Yeah, I could, with a little post-editing, I could actually use them. Also, you could say. AI finally kind of did its job. Sure, ran a little experiment, but hey. Here's the trick, though. When I did this, number one, I had to have my expectations ready. I already had to know what is good enough as an output to be able to verify that the outcome is acceptable, workable, or dump. If I need to use a different tool, or I should abandon this already. Number two, I already had to have the expertise in the subject matter, in the content, because how can I, if I'm a first-time reader, how can I decide if the summary is good or not if I can't do the summary myself? Number three, the experience that I gained from it was with every iteration, I actually kind of leveled up, which is awesome. It's fantastic, and I keep doing it every single day. Even at Nimdz, we use Gen AI tools all the time, not creating this slide deck. I'm actually proud of the content that we create is not AI generated, but we use AI for different purposes. And the key question is, was it really worth my time? Because let's face it, a key learning is AI used an assistant, generative AI, large language models. They're kind of like an eager but clueless intern. And I'm not saying a newbie, but an intern who, well, you know how interns work. You can essentially say goodbye to them at any point of time, right? There's no commitment whatsoever. It's exactly the same with the AI tools. They're eager, they will always provide a response. They seem clueless at first unless you keep working with them and guide them and coach them. But they're an intern, which means you can dump them, pick another one, or just completely abandon the experiment. But this all takes time, and actually time is the most valuable resource that everybody has. I'm sure that you have seen this before, but there's an immediate consequence that saving time for others is the greatest value that you can create. And this is true for big companies, big innovations. Would that be the computer, office productivity software, Uber, or food ordering? The one thing that if you order food for home, the one thing it really does, it saves you time. It all has other consequences as well, but that's the prime purpose why they're seeing investment also in the field. Is the exact same thing for generative AI. Generative AI is not getting the investment because of it can solve language problems. Generative AI is getting the investment and all the hype because they can help solve productivity challenges. They can help do things differently, faster, better. At least that's the promise. So let's look at it. What is it that we typically do in the industry? What are the key roles, right? Translators. What do they do? Well, of course, they translate, right? Or rather, they edit. Translation memory matches, or post-edit machine translation, which is kind of pretty much the same by now, at least. Or, you know, if you're a content creator, then you create content. Project managers. They manage the requests, they create the project and systems, they allocate the work, coordinate, and ultimately, of course, they deliver. Vendor managers. I used to work in vendor management. I was the head of vendor management at Moravia. And our motto was, we find translators. That's what vendor management is. They find people. In the translation space, that's translators or post-editors. And they maintain databases, of course, they escalate, they create feedback. And there's quality management, typically the fourth big piece of the puzzle. They ensure quality, right? They create the glossaries, they maintain the assets, they all do double checks, they respond to queries to translators and all of that. This is all great, but these are kind of tasks. This is literally what AI can do. Tasks. Yeah, and we saw yesterday, it was Ines who presented the, how's the device called? I forget the name. The Stream Deck, how tasks can be automated. AI can do exactly that. Well, you can look at it AI as such as, of course, it can be deep neural networks, large language models, or different automations and machine learning algorithms, but that's exactly what it is. It can do tasks. Let's, however, quickly rephrase what a translator really does. And a translator doesn't only translate, literally the value they create is a seamless language experience so that the users can interact with the content or the brand or the product or the service. What do project managers really do? They orchestrate so that the translation can happen straight through and right away. Vendor managers, they're not there to find translators. They're there so that the project manager doesn't have to. Last, the quality managers, what do? They help the translators get it right first time. Now, suddenly rephrasing this, all of them have a time context. Translators are there to save the time and the effort so that the users don't need to learn the language, or they don't need to go and find different websites or different products. They can easily use them. Project managers help so that the translation can happen correctly, straight through. Vendor managers make sure that the project managers don't spend their time invaluably, and the quality managers do the same for translators. These are time-saving, value-creating activities. AI cannot do these, but AI tools can help do them. So what is it that currently translation, or in the past, translation used to look like? It was all human, right? There was a request coming in, then a human sat down and typed, and then there was an output, delivery. And then came machine translation. Well, it's kind of arbitrary where you put the line. But came machine translation, and there's a little bit less human work. And also, it's not indicated, these are individual pieces of requests. It's not like, there's a lot more requests coming in because of machine translation as well. Next, nowadays, we're in the age where machine translation and large language models are at the level of capability where with source optimization, quality estimation, automatic post-editing, the human touch can even be further reduced. That's what we're seeing, right? But it's still there. Next will be that there will be even, I couldn't even fit human into the little box here. Language AI, let's just call it that. When all these tools a little bit coalesce and they converge, we will be seeing in the next year, even this year, there are already tools and platforms doing this, more and more coming, where humans will be working even less on the content, but on more content as such. But what is really the value that they create? And this is upstream from the requester side, downstream the user side. That little figure is the content creator. That little figure is the one who's consuming the content. And this is where we see that it's not just a request coming in and then there's something happening in the meantime. Somebody consumes the content, but there is somebody who's monitoring the experience of the users in country, in language, in culture, and feeds that back to the process all the way to the content creator, into the language AI, to the human translator, post-editor, whoever it may be who's working on it. In the meantime, there are cultural trainers who will be helping that specific human translator say, hey, here's a bunch of feedback from the users. This is really what we mean by how the brand is perceived within context, in cultural, in language. And that there are all those roles, not positions. These positions don't exist currently. No company has these positions. Nobody's hiring under these labels, right? There are the adaptation architects. Just died, the laser. The adaptation architects who would be helping the tools, the AI tools, directly at multiple instances. Because let's face it, currently, even though some of those products may look monolithical, one big chunk of stuff, actually they're very modular in many ways. And at each step, each handover, there is a place to intervene, although immediately it may not look so. And then finally, of course, there are the brand champions who take all that feedback from the experience creators, from the cultural trainers, from the adaptation architects, and feed it back into the content creators to say, this is what we really mean. This is how you should be creating the content. The experience from Intento and Amadeus is exactly that, which is to say, you can use a lot of tools, but the human feedback to say, this is how the content needs to be created, so that it can, again, flow through straight first time, and, by the way, also machine consumable and machine trainable. That can happen. And in the meantime, all these technology people, all these model mentors, very nice alliteration, they are there to guide the process, to guide the system. It all looks fair and square, especially because you may have seen this from BCG. It was a study last year. They said, oh, look at this. When compared with the control group, who didn't use GPT-4, those that did, they found a 40% performance increase. Typically, this is what appears in news, and many people talk about this and put them in the presentation. They forget the second half. because it's not so appealing. When this business problem solving, decision making is involved, then productivity suddenly drops, which means this is where human value is needed. This is where value is created by humans. So let's say we're 10 years later. Some things that are going to stay the same and some things that are going to change. We will still call the translation. And I don't mean just us thinking in this room. I don't mean just us, Nimdzi. Everybody in the world. For many reasons, but the prime reason is technology and technology adoption is never uniform. It happens slowly. It happens with the late majority when things get really renamed and commoditized. In-country resources, in-domain experts will still be needed, probably more than ever, because in all the previous roles that I showed you, that is the most relevant thing that you can have. Even in the data space, companies like Appen, who had a rather misfortunate year last year, they used to provide very commoditized data labeling and annotation services. But we hear from other players who are saying, actually, that's not really the market anymore. The market is subject matter experts in country. Highly paid experts who are doing data annotation and data validation for AI model training, for example. Some of the things will change, though. Hopefully, we as an industry, everybody, including the translators at the end of the pipeline, we will get closer to the users and to the creators. Hyper-localization, as many like to dub it, that's what really it means. We get closer to the source, and we get closer to the endpoint, the user. Our interactions with tools will, of course, change. We've seen also yesterday the Steam Deck, very useful little gadget, right? But natural language interface is what really made the hype around ChatGPT as well. I mean, large language models were there before. Nobody really knew about them in the world because they were awkward to use. The natural language interface is what's changing many things. Plus, the localization roles, currently, they're very siloed and segmented. In the new world, they will overlap. Who are currently translators in their jobs, they will ideally be working in all those roles that I previously showed. Same for the project managers, similar for the quality managers. And finally, what will change, of course, how everybody gets paid. As I said, time saving is the prime value creation. And so everybody should be paid by their time and effort, ideally. So everybody will be using either AI tools to help do their work better, faster, cheaper, or guiding these tools and helping others do so. But at the same time, never for a moment assume that AI is responsible, whatever the output is, whatever you have created, whatever you have put forth. You are. And this is also seen in the recent products, copilots. The typical ones, Copilot. I'm old enough to know this movie very, very well. It's from the movie Airplane. That's the Copilot. When the actual real pilots had an emergency situation, there still was one. You wouldn't want to put responsibility into that. Because ultimately, it's the human expertise we have and that we all trust. Thank you.